Good evening. The Mayor has urged people to get back to their offices to enjoy after-work drinks and West End shows in an attempt to get people back into the city. But many businesses fear that with the flexible work week set to stay, there won't be enough custom to keep going. Yesterday, the number of people on the tube at rush hour was the highest it's been since the start of the pandemic, but still half of what it was 2 years ago. Martin Stew reports.
Roslyn Coffee Shop by Mansion House had its busiest morning today since the pandemic began.
We're not too far off where we used to be. That's Tuesday to Thursday. Monday and Fridays are still pretty, they're nowhere near where they used to be.
But yet you're opening 2 new stores, so you must have some confidence that the city will bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, the City of London's been around for 2,000 years. Like, we expect it to stay around a little bit longer.
To coax people back to the city, new signs have been put up at underground stations. The number of people using the tube during yesterday morning's rush hour was 14% higher than the week before. But there's still a long way to go. Overall passenger numbers are just 53% of what they were back in 2019.
But you can't replicate on Zoom the joy of seeing colleagues in person. 1 out of 5 jobs in our city are in hospitality and retail. So we're encouraging Londoners to return to the office safely and then to do some after-work socialising.
At Cheese at Leadenhall, Mondays are still so quiet, it's not worthwhile opening. And Fridays aren't much better.
The city will go back to what it was before, but I think, frankly, in a different form. This year is going to be very much 3 days a week.
Does that earn you enough money to stay open?
Well, that is probably the $50 million question, Martin, to be honest, and I think time will tell on that.
After 40 years as a lunch spot, Andrea has had to change his business into a bar to survive.
Companies are reducing office space. They can't have their full team back in all week because there's no space. They're told not to travel in peak times to stay safe. So I don't really know what they can do to support. It's a question that maybe someone needs to answer, because I'm trying to work that out. I just need them here.
The question is whether the Mayor alone can do this. I think probably it needs national government messaging to some extent to reverse the stay-at-home lockdown messaging.
How quickly that message gets through could decide how many businesses stay afloat. Don't forget, rent arrears, often running into the tens of thousands, are due in the spring. Martin Stew, ITV News.
A 4th person has died after a serious collision on the M25 in Essex. 3 passengers died at the scene last Monday and another has now died of her injuries. A lorry driver has been arrested on suspicion of causing death and serious injury by dangerous driving and driving while unfit through drink or drugs. And a man has been arrested in connection with a number of unprovoked assaults on Jewish people in Hackney. One of the attacks, believed to be racially motivated, left a 64-year-old man with head injuries and a broken foot. A 28-year-old is in custody at an East London police station. Last month, the Prime Minister announced a new settlement scheme that would see 20,000 Afghan refugees come to Britain. But so far, councils in London have said they only have the capacity to rehome somewhere between 125 and 152 families. To date, the Deputy Leader of Kensington and Chelsea Council told ITV News much more needs to be done, and soon. Sam Holder has more.
This is one of the 4 homes that we're going to be making available for families.
This house will soon be a home for a family of Afghan refugees, one of 4 side by side in Notting Hill. I'm being taken on a tour by the Deputy Leader of Kensington and Chelsea Council. For the time being, this is it when it comes to houses for Afghan refugees in the borough.
4 families doesn't sound like a huge amount.
No, it doesn't sound like a huge amount, and these are our initial 4 that we've identified. We'll obviously be looking to see what other further support.
The Deputy Leader of the Conservative Council says the government needs to give more money and wants private landlords to also help out.
We've got a major crisis here, and a lot more needs to be done in order to find settled homes, and clearly the government is working on that, and all I will do is implore the government to put as much pressure as they can to providers of accommodation, and I'm very much looking towards housing associations here because they own an awful lot of property.
Councils are under no obligation to find homes for the refugees. The government has promised to resettle 5,000 Afghans by the end of the year. So far, 27 out of 32 London boroughs have offered up accommodation. That will house a total of between 125 and 152 families across the entire capital. Those who aren't found homes have to stay in temporary accommodation. Khan was an interpreter for the British Army. Now he and his family are stuck in a hotel in Watford.
We are about 25 families in this hotel, for everybody waiting for accommodation, permanent accommodation.
A government spokesperson said, "We have made £5 million available to local authorities to support in housing costs. We aim to move the refugees into long-term accommodation as soon as possible." But councils across the capital say government funding simply won't cover it. That means for those who've fled the Taliban, it could be a very long wait before they find a permanent home. Sam Holder, ITV News.
Next tonight, in 2017, Osman Uganda witnessed not one but two traumatic events. A pub doorman in Borough Market, he confronted attackers during the London Bridge terror attack. 11 days later, he watched the Grenfell Tower burn from his bedroom window. He lost friends on both days. Now he's taking his fight for survival to the boxing ring to raise money for the mental health charities which helped him cope. Rags Martel has his story.
He first faced terrorists, then a tragedy.
It was hard to actually believe this could all happen in the space of less than 2 weeks.
In June 2017, Osman Uganda was working as a bouncer when this happened. He found himself in the middle of the London Bridge terrorist attack.
And I could see 3 men walking towards me with knives in their hands. People ran past me. Within a second, they had stabbed one of my colleagues. I looked to the other side, they stabbed another one of my colleagues, and then they were just basically walking towards me.
After realising he was facing terrorists, Osmanu tried to fend them off, saving the lives of 2 victims.
Threw bottles at them, threw a chair at them, and the idea was to keep them at bay and then make sure that the girl and the guy that were on the floor were as safe as possible, because I didn't know if they'll make it through, or if they were to get up, would they get stabbed again.
But just 11 days later, he faced another tragedy. Grenfell Tower on fire.
To go through one trauma and then to look out your window and see a place where I grew up being on fire.
He still wishes he could have done more to help in this disaster.
I didn't want to go there because I felt like if I did go there, the type of person that I am, I would end up running in that building just to make sure that everyone was all right. So I was starting to cry.
No.
Yeah.
You want to take a minute?
No, that's cool. It's cool. It is what it is, isn't it? So.
To help with the grief of losing friends in the fire, he turned to Minds United FC, a mental health charity.
I just literally love what they was doing. It made me feel like there was a place where I could go where I could actually speak to people.
And now he's fighting for the charity, quite literally taking part in a boxing event next week to raise funds.
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to make myself proud, make my son proud, and hopefully make my community proud as well.
Despite everything he's seen, Osmanu continues to move forward, still helping others. Rags Martel, ITV News.
And finally, if you watched Wimbledon this year, you will probably remember the wildcard sensation Emma Raducanu, who battled her way to the 4th round of the competition. Well, this evening, the teenager from Bromley has beaten China's Zhang Shui in straight sets to reach the 3rd round of the US Open. On to the weather, and it's looking quite nice this weekend. Here's Chris Page.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
Hello there. Very good evening to you. It's been fairly cloudy across much of the capital through today, and where the cloud has been thick enough at times, we've also seen some light outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But if you're looking forward to something a little bit drier and maybe a touch warmer, you want to hold on to the end of this forecast. As for the rest of this evening and overnight though, yes, we've still got the cloud cover across northern home counties. The further south you are, a few clearer slots here, but I do think overnight temperatures won't drop much lower than around 12 to 14 degrees. It means that we start Friday, the end of the working week. Yes, a little bit of sunshine first thing tomorrow morning further south, but it will brighten up across the whole capital as we go into tomorrow afternoon, and where we do see the sunshine feeling quite pleasant as well. Top temperatures 22, maybe even squeezing 23 degrees. That's 73 in Fahrenheit. But the high pressure that brought most of the cloud through the last week or so starts to shift its way eastwards. We change the wind direction to a southeasterly, dragging in some drier air, and also the oranges and reds suggesting those temperatures are going to rise as well. So yes, summer might be over meteorologically speaking, but it looks like summer will fight back as we go into the latter part of the weekend. Good night.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV London weekday weather.
And that's it for now. We're back during Good Morning Britain. For now, though, good night.